Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Film Critics Guild Weekly Reviews. Film Critics Guild is a body of around 52 film critics from all over India. We have members from all across India who write for the print and the digital and also for the radio across various platforms and publications. I'm Aur the senior manager at the Guild. And today we have two of our members joining. We have Shilajit Mitra joining us from Mumbai, and he writes for The Hindu. We have Tatsam Mukherjee, who is joining in from Bangalore, and he writes for The Wire. And this week, we are going to primarily discuss the major releases. And over to you, Sheilajit. Please do tell us how was at the movies.
Hi, this was a fun week overall. Three very different kind of films are in theater. In Hindi, we have Dibakar Banerjee's Love, Sex or Dhoka 2. It's kind of like a thematic sequel to his 2010 film Love, Sex or Dhoka. This sort of found footage, very radical film that he made back in the day, using digital camera, simulating the world of CCTV footage and spy cams and things like that. And also a very intense study of Indian society on the brink of becoming fully digital, but also having a lot of revealing a lot of the fault lines that were there, from caste to patriarchy, things like that. It was pretty intense. I remember watching that film on a pirated DVD back in the day on my personal computer, being blown away by it. And Divakar has not had a release in a while. I remember watching his earlier film, Sandeep or Pinky Farrar, in theaters. It has gotten a very brief release during the COVID second wave, and then ended up on Prime or something and wasn't as widely watched. So it's been a long time to see him in theater. So that was something I was very excited about. The other film is Aur Do Pyaar. It's a sweet urban rom-com and a story about a marriage starring Pratik Gandhi and Vidya Balan. And that's there. And the third film is Alex Garland's film, Civil War. It's the English A24 release. It's an independent American feature. It's set in this sort of imagined dystopia in the near future in America, where there's been a civil war, and a bunch of states, 19 of them, have seceded from the body of the American Union. Garland is known for his science fiction movies. This is kind of science fiction in the sense it's dystopia, and it comments rather vaguely on the specific politics of America and the sort of left-right polarization, things like that happens there. So yeah, three diverse films in theaters, and we had the luck to see them, and it was quite an intense week of watching and reviewing.
Absolutely agreed. Which one do you want to start with first? I was thinking let's start with the easy one. Let's start with Do Do Pyaar because
I
that's
agree.
the
Yeah.
easiest one to like talk about. And what were your thoughts about Do Do Pyaar?
I found it sweet. I found it endearing. It was modest. I think often rom-coms sort of they bite off more than they can chew. This film knew sort of what parameters it was playing with. It was an adaptation of a short story, as far as I understand.
Hmm.
Indian rom-com, especially to deal with, let's say, illicit relationships, extramarital relationships, they tend to moralize, or they
True.
somehow they mess it up. So they don't or they lose the lightness of touch that is often needed in the genre. This film sort of balanced it well. It
Hmm.
gave us a peek into the characters, did not judge them as far as I could feel,
Hmm.
and but still was very much a rom-com. Did not become a heavy drama or like a one of those really brooding relationship dramas. Did not become that. So overall, I had good feelings about the film. I just was maybe I had little grumbles with how it wraps up and sort of the neatness
Same.
of kind of not twists, but like how the characters where they end up. So that felt a bit pat to me. How it sort of
Yeah.
holds up. What
Yeah.
about you?
Similar feelings. Had you seen the original film, The Lovers?
No, no,
Which
no,
it's
I've not
adapted
seen.
from. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I saw the name of the director and I kind of like recognized the name, but then I was like, "Iska kya dekha hai? Yaad nahi aa raha."
Huh.
And finally, I think it was this movie French Exit. I think it has Lucas Hedges, and it's like very weird. It's not a great film, but it's like obviously like very singular in its voice. You can tell
I see.
like the guy has like a very specific tone, and I was kind of like surprised when I saw the trailer. I didn't know it this was an
Hmm,
adaptation. I was
hmm,
quite surprised that like Hindi film
hmm,
actually came up with this very uh, deft uh, retelling of like without moralizing, like you said, on
Yeah.
extramarital relationships, very deft love story or marriage story, basically. Majorly enjoyed the film. I mean, I don't think there is much to hate about the film, but yeah, I mean, a couple of things that probably bothered me a little bit was Instagram aesthetic, which I kind of like mentioned in my review as well, is that I thought it was too viewed very neatly and categorized in like the social media sphere. I thought, like, in terms of like even the choices of music, it's very like urban acoustic. The production design of the flat, like overlooking uh, overlooking, I mean, the Mumbai skyline, them eating them like clinking pints of beer and like eating Chinese food. I thought it had a very uh, I mean, it didn't feel very intimate. It just felt like very
Hmm.
derivative of like American sitcoms. Like, I mean, a lot
Hmm.
of it felt like like the director kind of made that choice to like showcase, to bring focus to, okay, like, look at our cool romantic relationship, cool modern romantic relationship,
I see.
rather
Hmm.
than it just being like culturally rooted, or being a Bombay film. It was kind of generic that way. Like, I mean, that
Hmm.
these are like minor quibbles, obviously. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I just wish the film was even more culturally. It wasn't as generic as it was, because it was quite. It was derivative of, like, I thought it felt like a Hollywood rom com in the way, like, like, even It's Complicated and all those films, like,
Hmm.
showcasing middle-aged
Right.
people and middle-aged couples getting back together and all of that. So, I mean, yeah, that is what I felt about the film. What do you think of the performances? Like, I thought Prateek Gandhi was very good again.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk about that a bit. Like
Yeah.
Pratik has been a very interesting screen performer
Hmm.
recently. He had a big show back in the day. He broke out with that. And after that, he did a couple of films, but I could not get a read on what kind of a performer he is. Like it
Yeah.
takes a while, to see them in
So,
diverse genres till you can understand them very clearly. But he was recently in Madgaon Express and he was a hoot in that film. There's a lot of physical comedy
yeah.
and a lot of stuff he was doing that's very interesting in that film. And here he plays the sort of, the sort of sad sack husband and who has kind of given up on his creative past and is now just a bundle of responsibilities, and he kind of captured the sort of bedraggled life that he's going through rather endearingly. So Pratik is for me the standout in the film. Vidya was effortlessly good, of course. This is something that she's a heavyweight in that sense that she knows
Yeah.
terrain like very well.
No, you
I
finish
also
it.
like the other two actors, Ileana and
Yeah.
Sendil, their performances, and I also like the fact that the film sort of treats them as characters of their own. They both
True.
have we get a peek into their careers, pretty much where they are at life, where their issues are, and they felt sufficiently fleshed out. Though the film is about the primary couple played by Vidya and Pratik, I
Right.
felt the other two people were equally fleshed out or sufficiently fleshed out. So and I think the performances helped by both of them.
I really
Ileana
liked
also, yeah,
Saidal Rawapudi, and
yeah, yeah,
it's been a while like we've seen him, right, in a Hindi film. Like,
right.
he was so good in Shoran City as this,
Yes,
like,
yes, and after
town
yeah,
guy.
after such a long time, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and he's just like out of town in that film. He's like this out of town guy, like completely like like doesn't know his way around the city, and like it's Ganesh Chaturthi, and like by the end,
yeah, yeah,
like by around the time, like like the whole Visarjan and everything is happening, he really knows his way around the city. I thought that was like such a great arc in his first Hindi film. And over here, I mean, yeah, just like again minor quibbles. I wish they were a little more well-rounded. I mean, they are fleshed out, and they are, for a change, like, they aren't caricatures. They aren't, like the other people like we've
hmm,
been shown in other films. Uh, that way, I thought like Sendil and Rihanna, they were like given pretty much a lot of space. They were given their own flaws. They were given their own, like, personalities, where they aren't like fully just demanded. They
huh,
aren't like completely defined by their relationship, like, to the respective
yeah,
people. And
yeah,
yeah, interesting thing you bring about Pratik Gandhi, because I really want to talk about his physicality. The
yes,
physicality of his performance, even over here, I mean, I have a pet peeve about, like non-Bengali people playing Bengali and then
Hmm,
overseeing
hmm,
the Bengalis.
hmm.
So I kind of like raised an eyebrow when he was like going Begun Posto and Thapuma and all of that. I was like, oh yeah, फिर से हो गया ये तो मतलब
Huh.
so like and but then I thought he really understood the physicality of this very loser Bengali man, like who
Hmm.
had a passion back in the day, and now he's just like weighed down under responsibilities, and now he's like, I don't know, in his mind probably like Coffee House Asia Adda Ta Aja Nahi is playing.
Right,
I mean, I
right.
thought he did that really well, and I think it's a very difficult thing to do, right? I mean, I would imagine it's not a very easy thing to do to embody that physicality of like a person from a different part of the country completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt it was sufficiently urban, sort of middle age, that part. I'm not 100% sure about the Bengaliness of it.
Hmm.
But in terms of sometimes we sort of also fill that in, like from our cultural experiences. I think both of us
Quite
are
possible. Yeah.
Bengalis, will be middle aged pretty soon. So I think somewhere we fill that in, perhaps. Yeah, but I agree with your criticism over there that, and I see it more clearly now that you mention of how sort of it didn't feel culturally as rooted. You realize that the characters come from different parts of India,
Hmm.
and the treatment that was largely given was of a generic urban upper middle
Yeah.
class Bombay. There were these touches. There's a brief detour to Uti. There is the thing about
Yeah.
Begun Posto and things like that. But overall, I don't think the film. I didn't feel the film really wanted to lean too deeply into that.
Ah, agreed,
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I mean, which is why I can't fault it also because I can also
yeah,
see, I can also hear the soups while watching a film like this. Is that, like to keep it as surface level as possible, not to like dig too deep, like
yeah,
culturally,
yeah,
into like, minor conflict and all of that. And I think that was kind of my, I mean, if you can call it a grouse, I mean, it's a
yeah,
perfectly watchable, fine, nice film. Uh, but yeah, I guess the grouse was that there wasn't. There wasn't that like that stellar concentration that we're promised in these
mm,
Allen stories. Whether it is Noah Baumbach's
yeah.
film or
That's
whether
right.
something like a Revolutionary Road or one of
Mm,
those like those spousal
heavy ones. Yeah,
conversations where
yeah,
everything goes to shit. I thought it was too curated and very neat and it very neatly packaged, like you mentioned also earlier. The like the latter half of the film and uh, yeah, it resolved too quickly, I guess, and too easily, I guess. I mean, again, there could be arguments about that like they actually divorced and like their individual partners, they left their individual partners and then they got back together after a year and all that. But I still felt it was too a little too rushed. थोड़ा और
mm,
लॉन्ग होना
mm,
चाहिए.
similar. I have a similar feeling. I know they're adapting something, so maybe they're stuck to a plot. But I
Fair
felt,
enough.
yeah, that didn't
Fair
feel.
enough. Fair enough. Let's move to Civil War.
So I'm a big sort of nut for Garland cinema. So
Same.
and especially his directorial work. I think there is an indie sci-fi, hard sci-fi kind of a subculture, and then there is the blockbuster American way of doing science fiction. He, in the last few years, had been that bridge, where how Ex Machina broke out and then
Hmm.
Annihilation. He sort of took blockbuster aesthetics of films that could be sold as blockbusters, but got you thinking about complex sci-fi issues. This really sort of a meditative, this sort of a dystopic
Yeah.
tone that he caught about technology, about human culture, about how we relate to past and present and future, things like that. I really enjoyed his series Devs that he had come out. I thought it was like
I
one of the
haven't seen
best
that. I haven't
TV
seen that.
shows.
I
Huh.
I, I should check it out now.
Yeah, I was thrilled for Civil War. Again, the sort of whole conversation in the press around Civil War, I think, has because it addresses journalists directly
Hmm.
and gets a lot of it right about what war correspondence, the sort of psychological life that they live, the profession itself. I read your review where you did talk at length about how journalism around the world is suffering for different reasons, economically and in terms of its freedom, and all these things were very engrossing in the film. I just felt and it's sort of a bait that the film sort of has there, that it does not indulge with localized American politics that
Yeah.
explicitly.
Hmm.
In the film, there's a conceit that the state of Texas and California kind of banded
Yeah.
together against a seemingly fascist president. Now, that's something like, that there are blogs about this. People have written about this, how can this happen? Things like that. And when you watch the film, you know that this country is out of whack, and there's a president in the White House who's disbanded the FBI and has carried out
I don't
airstrikes on
want to
his
give
own
up power.
country, doesn't want to give up power, and the country has been plunged into civil war as a result of that. But beyond that, like everything that we feel might lead to a dictatorship of that sort, that those patterns in how power operates in the world and the commonalities we see in dictatorial regimes around the world. I think those topics the film was very edgy about. I saw Garland's interviews where he's mentioned that he expects this criticism, and his whole thing is I wanted to make a film against polarization, so I did not want to
Yeah.
topicalize it, because the moment you topicalize a film, there's an audience that feels that you're on their side or that side, and you alienate audiences. That can be a fair argument, but I think time will tell, because also this is a epic film, this is a big budget film, so there are considerations A24 would have to take. It's an indie house producing a blockbuster film, and indie houses also need audiences to come. So we
Absolutely.
know
And
Hollywood
it's their
studios don't alienate. Yeah,
it's their most expensive film, no? I think
it is some 50 mil
50
dollars.
million.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I would imagine. I interesting point I found in your review as well is where you
Hmm.
thought this was kind of a cop out, right? Like the fact that he doesn't align himself with either side.
Yeah. If for posterity, if you have to bet, I'll be on the side of the people saying that it's a cop out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. There were portions where I felt the film was a bit more explicit than
Hmm.
I initially thought it was when I sort of went back and thought about it. But
Hmm.
I still feel it's a cop out. I feel it's a cop out. There is nothing more there. That it's a deliberate way to keep it vague, to have we political cinema. The more specific it is, that sort of more universal power it has. This is a basic math that filmmakers know. So when they don't go down that road, it has to be something else. It has to be other factors that stop them from.
So I'll be honest, like while watching the
Hmm.
film, I like my takeaway from the film was I mean, why he didn't touch upon it is that it doesn't matter because there are just so many factions within factions. Like there
Hmm.
is, I mean, whether there is like the left and the right, and within the left there are so many factions of themselves. Within the right alone, there are so many factions. And my point was that, I mean, why he didn't touch upon it is that it just doesn't matter because I mean in the end people want to blow each other up and they want to like pump bullets into each other and that is all uh, he's addressing is that like you'll have to get over that impulse of like he if I'm not agreeing with you I have to shoot you or I don't have to like speak to you but after reading your observation I am kind of in a little bit of like on like dodgy ground that you could be right. I think it is probably a commercial decision imposed by the studio. Uh, but I also went back and like watched all Garland's interviews and
Huh.
like you mentioned, like he's talking
Hmm.
about he's talking about like a film against polarization that like the fact that we have reached a point where we're not engaging anymore because uh, I think that's happened on like our Facebook circles as well, right? Like I mean
Hmm.
you remember how topical it used to be like in 2017
Yeah.
18 where
Yeah.
you could write a pro Modi post and an anti Modi post and there would be like a discourse that doesn't happen anymore. That we have either conveniently muted those people or we have unfollowed those people, we've unfriended those people. So, do you at all think there is any weight to his argument that, like we will have to talk? I mean, like the right and left, we will have to, uh, despite our hatred or whatever, we have to put aside our ideals and we will have to come and like have a conversation with the other side. Do you I mean, that does sound like a horror situation, right? It does sound like a premise for a horror film that we can't talk to the people from the other side. We'd rather pump bullets into them. And which is what it makes me chuckle all the more. The
Yeah,
ties between, like California and Texas, it almost feels like an in joke. Ki it can happen. You never know, like in the future, in a
yeah, yeah.
what
Yeah,
do you
see,
think?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is what was bothering me about it. And if Texas and California banded together, and we are not Americans, so we wouldn't know the exact, let's say, the ground specificity of a complex scenario,
For
speculative scenario like this.
for
But
an Indian audience, I mean, that would be what? Like that would be Uttar Pradesh and Kerala, right? Right now.
something like that. Yeah. Uttar Pradesh and
Yeah.
Kerala. Let's
Yeah.
say. See, here's my beef with that. I'll say this. In the film, Galan pretty much suggests that the president in power is sort of this fascistic figure who is, taken over things, who's completely undermined the constitution, and he presents him as a separate entity from the states, where the states have sort of banded together and are fighting him because, and the whole argument is that these two states have kind of overcome their differences so
Hmm.
that they can fight a demagogue that has undermined the constitution of the country, right? And completely changed its face. I just find that a bit muddled because it's like saying that the state politics is somehow dissociated from a scenario that would lead to a demagogue coming to power. I think that,
Hmm.
that is my beef with the whole film. It's like
Fair.
saying that the politics of Texas or the politics of California had no bearing on this guy coming and
True.
assuming power. That is not how it works. It's a unitary nation. It has a federal government in power, but
Hmm.
state and union powers, they sort of operate in sync, right, in the modern world when we see. So if I imagine a fascistic situation as brutal as that in my own country, I would know that state politics has played a part to it, right? And representatives from that state and what they embody have enabled someone eventually to take on that power at the topmost seat. Right.
Hmm.
I just felt that this decision to show that, okay, whatever the minor differences that Texas and California might have, they have taken the bigger step of assimilating and coming together and fighting a worse evil. It just, I felt that it makes that evil, whatever it is, fascism or whatever you call it, as if it exists outside of the politics of these two individual states. While it could have been that, let's say, Texas, which is a red state, could have enabled that demagogue to be in the White House, or it could be a scenario where it's a left demagogue or something like that. And we have
Hmm.
seen that in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
It's not like the communist countries do not have
Absolutely.
demagogues. I'm not saying that only the right leads to demagoguery. I'm
True.
not saying that. But I'm
Hmm.
saying that if you isolate regionalist politics from a world situation like that, then you trade in a kind of vagueness where anything kind of goes. I'm not sure if I expressed correctly, but that's sort of my beef with the
Hmm.
whole Texas California thing that's doing. Broadly speaking, yes, of course, like we all know this. We know that the world has been completely sequestered and polarized. It's impossible to have a conversation across the table. I have friends who across the political spectrum in India, and our skins have been thin to a point where I'd rather block them or not talk to them, and I think people
Yeah.
do the same to me.
We won't like
Uh,
discuss politics, right? Like with
Right,
them.
but even there, no, it's something like, even if we are addressing that, that also exists within the envelope of politics, because there are algorithms and there are tech companies that enable a culture like that knows that, okay, keep the liberals happy in their own sort of echo chamber, keep the right wingers and the
Hmm.
governments happy in their own echo chamber. So it's not like this polarization is something we voluntarily sort of walked into. There are powers and there are forces and there are
Of course.
minds playing behind this also. So if he wants to talk about polarization as something that people voluntarily sort of walked into, I again find it a bit muddled and vague. So these are the strange sort of circles that I had ideologically in my head going around
Fair enough.
Civil War.
Fair enough. I mean, I primarily saw it as a film that is, uh, I mean, an endorsement for the journalists. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
which is, I think it's the through line of the film in
yes, yeah,
my head. Yeah, I mean, like the ideological quibbles that you mentioned. I mean, sure. I mean, it's there are like lots of there's a lot of
Yeah.
like vague stuff going on behind. But I like, how the through line of the film is how he is. I think his father was a journalist. I think
Yes.
his father was a
Yes. Yes.
war journalist, right?
Yep.
And how he's batting for journalism in a world where is like like it's increasingly like distrustful of journalists. Like
Yeah.
I like how it's simultaneously uh, it showcases the opportunism that
Yeah.
a lot of us we feel when we get a scoop, our eyes light up. Oh, that's the humanity in us, right? And at the same time, we want to be on the right side of history. We want to, document it for posterity as with as much integrity as possible. I thought he got that balance really well
Yes. Yes.
of,
I
of,
agree.
of
Agree.
the
That I'm down with. I'm down with. That was the most involving and engrossing thread of the film.
yeah. What do you think of the
His
performances? Kirsten Dunst, Katie Spiney.
I like Kirsten Dunst. I think
I love.
I could hang on to her. I read some review, like I think Peter Bradshaw in The Guardian slammed her performance, saying this is just she has a lot of school teachery sadness to her performance, and like he kind of dismissed that. I could hang on to it very easily. Like I thought she's someone she's in the sort of middle overs of her career, and she's seen a lot, and while she has to quietly mentor this kid who's kind of tagging along, she's
Yeah.
also coming to terms with how she views it. There's a beautiful exchange at night between her and a senior New York Times journalist who asks her, "Is this all existential? What is going on inside of you?" And I think that cuts to the heart of it very well.
I think so. I
Uh,
think so. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think it's not a very showy performance, and which
Hmm.
is where I give it credit. Is that like a lot of it is very, you know, it's like a lot of internal demolition that's happened
Yes.
inside her while documenting everything that she has done over the years. It reminded me of this of this film starring Rosamund Pike. Called A Private War. So, I mean, I was
Hmm.
reminded of A Private War. It basically like charts the life of like the career of a person who. And Rosamund Pike's performance is what like stuck with me. I at that point I watched it all the way back in 2018, I think 2018, 2019. I watched it in a theater and I really took it to heart. I was like, oh, this is a very good performance. It's until I saw Kirsten Dunst,
Hmm.
doing the exact opposite of what Rosamund Pike did. Rosamund Pike was like
Uh,
a theatrical
hmm.
author performance where she's walking around with eye patches and she's enacting the PTSD and all that. And over here, it's like so much of it is so internalized. All
Yeah.
we don't hear
Yeah. Yeah.
PTSD, we don't hear any of these fancy terms. Maybe
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
because of the timeline. I thought it was a splendid, very effortless performance. And I think like one image from Civil War that I will take with me for a long time is Kirsten Dunst's character. I think her name is Lee. Lee
Hmm.
not making being not able to make sense of the violence, like when they enter DC during the climax, and she suddenly has I think she has a panic attack and she just collapses to her knees and she just cannot make sense of who is who and who is shooting who and what is she doing there and who is she supposed to photograph. I think that visual it really summed up the film for me in terms of
Hmm.
like the mindlessness of uh, it is a war film, right? Like even though it's we might put it into like several genres where it's it's a futurist film, it's a sci-fi, it's a
It is
dystopian,
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's also like a war film. And it's
Yeah.
in that during that climax is when like the entire thing, like the entire budget is on show when they're blowing up all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
monuments and all.
Yeah.
So I mean that is one visual that I'll like take with me for a long time. So yeah, let's move on to LSD 2. I'm still processing the film. There was a lot. It was an
Yeah.
assault on my senses. I came out with my brain being mush. That doesn't happen very often in a Hindi film. Uh, I was quite impressed. I was
Hmm.
quite deflated by the end of the film
Hmm.
because I think it did a very good job of like really cutting the entire influencer culture, our social media ethics, and as a result of uh, the social media presence in our lives, like how life has kind of like become a performance, and he really
Yeah.
delves pretty deep into that, like how we're all enacting, whether it's someone transitioning, someone being like overtly macho on for the for YouTube fans, whether it is someone like a Swastika's character being like
Yeah.
nobler, being the noble upper class do-gooder until circumstances flip.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very cutting portrait of our race, how we become essentially performers in this social media sphere. Yeah, you add to that if you can.
I have. I'm still. As much as you. Also still processing LSD too,
Yeah,
and
I
it
think it's
was
a
in,
difficult film. I think it's a difficult
yes.
film to just I just
Hmm,
opine on. I think
that's true.
because there is just so much happening.
That's true. That's true. I had misgivings about the film.
Okay.
When I came out, I found stretches of it not very illuminating. I have
Hmm.
always admired Dibakar Banerjee. There's a very thin line between satire and a kind of defeatist mockery that sometimes, and a sort of pranksterist defeatist mockery kind of takes over filmmakers. But I've
Hmm.
always found him a very balanced, a very entrenched satirist who kind of tells
Hmm.
stories from within spaces that he's studying. For the first time, I found LSD2 is something that was much more angrier and undigested. That was my
Hmm.
overall feeling when I came away from the film. I felt that it has a highly negative, cynical, nihilistic, and appropriately so view of influencer culture, internet culture in India. But I think that that view stays so impenetrably solid, like throughout the film, that the
Hmm.
other aspects of it, characters, the filmmaking, the individual dramas that has to be there, that kind of like the text of the film did not work for me as well. Like a lot of the three stories, they did not leave me with the kind of jolt and with the kind of discomfort that the first LSD had done back in the day. And the first LSD was a wonderful clickbait in that sense that a lot of people would go in thinking this is just another sleazy thriller they're getting
Yeah.
into, and then the film would subtly indict them and their own voyeurism, and the audience felt really discomfited. I did not could not find that feeling in me while watching LSD2. I feel the reason for it, as I understand, is that the caricature of the internet is also on the internet, like the a
Yeah.
meme sort of memes itself,
Yeah.
and an effort to do that over a feature film kind of defeats it all over again. Like the internet assimilates all its criticism into itself. So I felt, and I somewhere sense that Divakar knew this. So after a point, he wanted to just have fun and just to just give us a freak out kind of a movie, which is fair, which is fine. And I think there's a subtext to this: his films have been stuck for a while. There's one film
Yeah.
that had not been released. So it's nice to see a filmmaker to completely lash out terrible and shallow you lot are, and you are
Yeah.
irredeemable and you are complicit in your own oppression. I think that's one insight that the film leaves you with, that it's not just the big tech or the big companies in Bombay or the production houses that are manipulating people. People are very willingly walking into this sort of realm of manipulation because probably their own lives don't make sense to them anymore. I just wish it was a more focused, more precise kind of a film.
Hmm.
And its provocations put me in a state of discomfort. I was really hoping for that. I know the sort of climate that we're in, films have been tamed down a little bit and they don't feel as provocative that they need to be. I remember in the first LSD, there were scenes, the honor killing scene, for example.
Yeah.
How caste was brought up in the particular first film. Rajkumar Rao's treatment and his opportunism with the girl that he loves. All of
Yeah.
these dramatic situations left you feeling very, I don't know, very uncomfortable. Also because you kind of rooted for the characters, all the individual
Hmm.
characters.
Hmm.
I felt the characters in LSD2 were sort of after a point, caricatures and types of different aspects of the society that he was critiquing. Swastika was a caricature of the sort of, superficial do-gooder in a corporate environment. In the first film, they're all pretty much caricatures of, reality show participants, judges. So I could not hang on to the characters and their journeys to such a depth that, I was felt left feeling for them. I felt this was a film more of an exercise as a kind of a political expression of a director's frustrations, and there's space for that in cinema, and we don't have that in Indian cinema, and I'm not against that. I hope there is more of that. I hope we have more kind of films like that are utterly absurd and that just poke fun and it just gives the bird to society. But knowing Dibakar and knowing what he's capable of and what this film could have been, a sort of next step and a next evolution for from where the first LSD has done. It's sort of like a LSD 1.5 rather than like an LSD 2 for me.
Agreed. I don't disagree with anything you said. And I mean, the way I reasoned it in my head was that he's just coming out of, like a political film uh, that did not get released.
Yeah.
So I kind of really felt that, reality shows and internet memes and influencer culture, I mean, they are relatively low-hanging fruits in the way that he's gone about it. But one thing I really admired about the film is, I think, like you mentioned, I think Dibakar also knows that these are low-hanging fruits, which is why he was absolutely batshit with, like, especially like the last few minutes.
Yes.
He's completely gone off the cuff. It's crazy. He's using VR. He's using AI tools. He said it in metaverse. I'm sorry if I'm like, this is not a spoiler, but I thought it was completely unhinged. I thought I really dug the anger and like uh, the acid that he had for a lot of us, a lot like his fellow countrymen, his country, like the world around us. But especially, I think, uh, given the aftermath of Sushant Singh Rajput, I'm pretty sure what he had to witness as one of his collaborators, and the way he had to, like, endure that brouhaha, that circus for like almost a year. I don't really hold it against him. I don't really hold it against him for completely giving up on humankind. And the way he has gone after, I don't, the one thing I like kind of disagree with you a little bit is that I don't think it's a you. I think it's an us. Like, he's also like pointing it at himself, and he's like, we're all like, petty and opportunistic and, convenient with our morals. We're very, we're altruistic on public forums and all of that. But behind, I like his fixation with the word Gandhi, which was, I think, a callback to the first
the
film.
song in the first film and the song there, and it's a song.
I really like his fixation with Ganda and Gandhi being the adjectives that he uses for human beings, because I kind of I buy the cynicism with everything that is going on around us, and I don't really like hold it against him for being as cynical as he is, because it is. I mean, the society is what it is, and human nature is what it is. It's not going to change anytime soon. And as much as, I agree with the fact that, like, there is nothing comes of it, like the whole defeatist nature of a film, like completely giving up. I think it's going to be like a significant film to come back to in years to come, in the year, probably like 15, 20 years down the line, hopefully when things are a little better. It'll be a hilarious film to come back to just, like, see an anchor enter VR and basically saying that, I want to live in the metaverse, I don't want to come back in the real world. And I'm like, where do you draw a line with, like, satirizing something like TV news, which is already operating at such a high level of satire? Like, I mean, there's nothing you can take seriously about it. And yet, he just found this like really kick-ass line. I thought, like,
Huh.
the anchor saying that I don't want to go back, and I was like, wow, that it's actually batshit crazy, and it'll be a fun film to like come back to. I believe in like 10-15 years. Maybe we're a little uh, like a little exhausted by the discourse around us to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
to really uh, grapple with the scope of what this film is trying over here
Hmm.
with as much
Hmm.
anger and whatever. I think it's a
Hmm.
film that is going to age better. I think.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope to go back to it. I've been a fan of Divakar's films for one of the reasons that the more you watch them over and over again, they
Yeah.
reveal layers to you. My first viewing of LSD was not good. As much as I enjoyed a lot of things individually
Mm.
of it, like the overall thesis of the film, I felt was futile. And this is already there. I felt that a lot of the insights were kind of, I felt that those insights exist already. It's just that we see it in a Dibakar Banerjee package, the
In a
idea
found footage
of
horror film.
yeah, in that form, but this idea that this is all fake, that people are projecting, that people and that they are being manipulated, and then there is these global tech companies doing intense amount of mind control, people being complicit on that. These individual insights, I did not found them new or
Yeah,
very
fair enough.
well digested.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Dibakar's satires have always been, it's something, it's more unsaid, it's something, it's something more visceral. Here I felt
Yes.
it was a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
I was a little discomfited. And tell me about your feelings about this, that there were these, this random videos that would pop out throughout the film of various Indians
Yes.
sitting and watching from different aspects of the different parts of the country to what these influencers are doing, and they're simultaneously, they sort of want to become like that, but they also hate them. And then and those, maybe that's the only bit that made me uncomfortable in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do feel that it was defeatist in the sense that the targets that you would probably imagine watching or even hearing the one line of the film end up as the targets, like the Swastika's company, the bosses who hire, let's say, transgender people for some kind of a scoring brownie corporate social responsibility browning points, things like that. These insights didn't feel very fresh and new to me about the
Fair enough.
internet or internet culture.
Yeah. I think you're right about that. Uh, I think it's also like because we are a little desensitized right now, especially
Hmm.
with like all the Made in Heavens
Yeah.
and like the whole
Yeah.
inclusivity campaigns that
Yeah. Yeah.
we're witnessing on a lot of shows which don't feel very authentic. So we're all feeling a little disillusioned about it. We're a little desensitized to it. I think the Swastika story especially, I think it works. I think it
Hmm.
works, and I think it will. As much as I agree that it's not a very fresh perspective, I think it will cut deeper in. I think in the time to come, in like a few years down the
Okay.
line. I
Yeah.
think right now we're so in the middle of the tornado, like in the middle of
Probably.
everything that's happening. I think it's a film that will I wouldn't bet money on it, but I think it'll age better uh, down the line because I think when we're a little in a headspace to consume, or maybe the film is kind of like the film is a signal to us that we'll never be as sane as we were, pre social media again.
Yeah, it felt like a cry of help. If
It's
that's
a cry of
how I
help.
can
Yeah,
sum it.
yeah.
It felt like a cry of
I think that's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, this is fun. This week I could only watch LSD 2. I had a
Yeah,
lot of
I
fun.
mean, yeah. What do you
help.
what did you think?
I quite liked in the sense, also the queer. If you see it from a queer lens, the queer characters in
Hmm.
the film,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
it's nice to see uh, desanitized queer lives.
Yes.
Sometimes,
Yes.
especially in the
Absolutely.
mainstream, when you have a queer character, it's just always very nice people, very good people. And here they were flawed people,
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
everyone,
They were.
you know. what was very interesting in the third part of the film was also like, how people around react to certain situations where, the teacher says, "Arey, it's okay to be different," and this one is like,
Yeah,
"Arey, I'm not different," and he keeps saying, "Arey,
that's a
I'm
great
not
scene.
gay,"
That's a great scene.
And
that I found it.
then the mother says, "Arey, she's saying you're different. Be
You're
different, right?"
different.
That was hilarious. I think that Dibakar is such an intelligent filmmaker. He has put all these things, and it makes us think. I quite like, and Bonita Rajpurohit, I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like the performance. She, she's also a filmmaker herself, and she has made a short film, is part of the Kashish Pride Film Festival,
Oh
and
gosh.
Alankrita Srivastav was the mentor on that particular script, and it's I'm very excited about that. So I really want to know how people react to it. I really liked her short film, and I think 2 3 days ago on 17th April, another film has come out, which is an independently made film by a couple of filmmakers. I think the filmmaker is from Baroda. Dhruv Solanki has made a film called
Yes,
Salt in the Head, and that also has
yeah.
Bonita. And somehow she has a very strong on screen presence, and she's very nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what she does next. So this week also, the Mumbai Film Festival on their YouTube channel, they dropped 5 short films, which I happened to see on the big screen, and I was very excited about them because all these 5 short films are made by 5 independent filmmakers who have made very nice feature films, and I've really liked the feature films in the past, so I was excited. And we have Archana Atul Phadke, who has made About Love, this documentary. Then Faraz Ali, who has made Shoebox, and Prateek Vats, who has made Ibalihu. We also
Yeah.
had Saumyananda Sahi, who's such a fantastic cinematographer, and has also he's, done some fantastic work in the web series space. He has shot a lot of web series. He has also made a feature length film, which is I think in post production, and he has also made a couple of documentaries. Saurav Rai has made 2 very strong independent films, Nimto and Guras. So all these 5 people, they have come together. I think it was a grant by Apple, and it was a Apple MAMI tie-up where all these filmmakers were asked to make around, I think, 20 to 30 minute short films using an iPhone.
Hmm.
And when I saw this on the big screen, everything it holds the big screen, and it is quite an experience because all of them are strong filmmakers, but visually you don't feel like it's being shot on an iPhone, and it really pushes the boundaries. And especially one of the filmmakers, Faraz, was telling me after the screening that I think this is really going to push the way non-fiction, especially all these 5 films are fiction, but non-fiction might change because the spaces the camera can enter now, and especially one of the films had a shot at night and with just some strobe lights in the middle of a desert. But all these things, they've been captured so beautifully. So yeah, that's streaming on Mami's Mumbai Film Festival's YouTube channel. If anybody wants to watch it over the
I'm
weekend.
really excited to watch all of them. I'm just gonna get to it like as soon as I can. And I really resent you, Obruf, that you got to watch it on the big screen and I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheila,
In
did you
fact,
know?
one of the
Did
films
you did
which
you
is
know?
set in Kashmir has been shot by Anand Bansal, who is also one of the DPs on LSD too. So very diverse sort of work from Anand, who's a very exciting cinematographer. He's also the cinematographer behind Gamak Ghar and films like that.
So on that note, thank you so much, Tatsam and Shilajit. It was fantastic. We are going to come back next week with 2 other Film Critics Guild members. Till then, keep watching Film Critics Guild reviews every week. Thank you.
Thank you, Avro. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. Thank you.